All right, it's the third hour of the Elias Macko Show. And again, when I'm coming back from being off for 4 weeks, hi, everyone. If you're just tuning in, I was off for 4 weeks. I had a baby boy, Olivia and I. She gave birth to a baby boy, Wolfgang, a month ago, and I'm back from pat leave. So it's great to be back on air. And the producers here, they say, hey, Elias is coming back. Let's make Elias happy. And so what happened is Lola books you, PJ. Philippe J. Fournier is with us.
Hello, Elias.
And it's great to have you here. And you're on because you put me in a good mood. I just want to point that out.
There you go. I'm pleased. I'm touched. I really am.
I should point out you're editor-in-chief of 338canada.com and one of the hosts of the Numbers podcast.
That's right.
Which is doing quite well, all about politics. But first things first, I want to give you some kudos here.
All right.
This is a true story that happened last week. At home, new baby, my fiance feeding the baby, we're on the couch, we turn on CTV News. And when we turn on CTV News, it's you and Maya Johnson.
The great Maya Johnson.
The great Maya Johnson. And Olivia, she looks at the TV and she goes, did that guy teach at CEGEP? And you teach at CEGEP.
That's
and
right.
you were Olivia's prof in astrophysics?
Astrophysics, that's right. The last semester class for science students where I pushed them to the limits of their knowledge. And your fiance was my student.
And she says you were great.
Wow.
She says you were great, and she was there. So she's so happy to see you on the TV. And I'll throw that out there. I won't say just how long you've been teaching at CEGEP, by the way, because that may age you, and we don't want to do that.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Astrophysics at CEGEP.
That's right.
The poll numbers in the rest of your life. Let's start off talking politics. And, one of the stories that I missed over the last month being away from this show is the unbelievable collapse here that's happening in CAQ land.
It's unprecedented, Elias, because when I saw the numbers, the thing is, the big shock happened in November.
Yeah.
The poll that I commissioned, I didn't do the poll, again, I don't do the polls, I commissioned the polls, I analyzed the polls. In November, it showed the Parti québécois had taken a 6-point lead province-wide in Quebec over the CAQ. Came as a shock. I think the fielding of the poll in November started, and it was a coincidence. It started right after the Los Angeles Kings story.
Coincidence.
So the CAQ must have taken a hit from this. But so I decided to commission a poll at the start of the National Assembly session last week, and it shows the CAQ now trailing the Parti québécois by 11 points. The CAQ dropping 3 points, which is beyond the margin of error of the poll. And dropping in every region, Montreal, suburbs, 418 in Quebec City, the regions of Quebec, among francophones, among anglophones, like dropping everywhere. And I tried to find a precedent in Canada, anywhere, for a governing party losing half of its support in one calendar year.
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
You couldn't find that.
I couldn't find it.
So here's the thing, right? One of the reasons why I love the work that you do is that when you do your projections, right, you're looking at all the various ratings and how the numbers translate into seats. And I guess there's a combination here with the Liberals still some strength in Montreal. And if the PQ does well in Quebec City and those regions, like the CAQ seats, they go for, what do they have now, 90? What are they at right now?
They have 89.
89?
Right.
They're at 80. It almost goes poof into the night.
It goes poof into the night because the CAQ had a very effective vote, efficient vote, we say, right?
Yes.
It basically won francophone voters and won everywhere outside of the island Montreal. And when you see those numbers go down, they all go down uniformly. And so should an election happen now, they would lose everywhere. And so when I compiled the projection, of course, I was nervous publishing that projection because people sometimes look at those numbers and find it crazy. I have the CAQ projected leading in 9 seats. So that would be 90% of their caucus would be wiped out. But there's no election right now. This is politics fiction, right?
Yeah.
But still, the Parti québécois leading 13 points among francophone voters, leading everywhere outside of Montreal. It basically is just a bunch of CAQ voters that decided, you know what, I'm going back to the Parti québécois, and that's all the movement was needed to see such a switch in a possession.
So, having said that, I know you mentioned off the top the coincidences of the Los Angeles Kings, the $7 million.
Yeah.
Do we have an indication? You mentioned the support has fallen across the board. Anglophones, everyone's dropping. Do we have other nuggets? Do we have anything that indicates, well, it's not just LA Kings 7 million? I should note this afternoon, 3 p.m., the premier is going to meet the president of McGill University.
Oh, okay.
And that, of course, has not been a popular decision, even among Francophones. I see in the French media how that the stuff they've done with university tuitions for tuition rates for out of province students. So, do we have any other indications of what has led to that deterioration? Is it just King's? Or,
no, it's not just Kings.
Everything.
Well, the thing is, the fall, la glissade, started in April, right? Okay. And it's always in hindsight that you can decipher a little what happened, right? It started in April with the broken promise of the third link in Quebec City, the much publicized third link that they broke. They lost overnight 20 points in Quebec City, and they had cleaned the floor, wiped the floor with their opponents in Quebec City, except for 2 downtown seats with Québec Solidaire. And then you had the by-election in Jean Talon. And then M. Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, whether you like him or not, he had a good year. He knew how to distinguish himself from the pack. And you have then the Liberals still leaderless and still wondering why they waited for so long to have a leadership race. Because in hindsight, I'm pretty sure the Liberals, the Quebec Liberals, if they had known that the CAQ would dismantle like this over 2023, they probably would have chosen to pick a leader earlier. They chose 2025 because they said, well, the CAQ is invincible right now. It's not.
Not invincible.
It isn't.
It just shows you how in politics everything can turn on a dime and how you can end up with Denis Coderre down at the offices getting the 3-year membership. Well, okay, so why is that your reaction?
Well, the thing is, I'm not an editorialist, so I have to be careful of what I say. Yeah. But in the numbers, I see no indication whatsoever that the Liberals would be well served by Denis Coderre.
And has there been any polling that says the Liberals run by Denis Coderre as an option?
Last year in November, shortly after the election, and he was the choice of 9% of respondents.
Gotcha.
And so the name recognition in these polls is very important. And in the list, there was no star last year. Yeah. There still is no star. But the thing is, of course, I won't reveal this now, obviously, Elias, but I know some people, some prominent people that are interested by the Liberal leadership. But it's in 15 or 16 months from now. They're not going to quit their jobs and start campaigning now. They have to pay the mortgage. They have to live. They have to earn a living. Yeah. And so to have the leadership campaign that far away, of course, it only interests people that can live on a pension like Denis Coderre.
Yeah, that's right.
And Denis Coderre is really good. He toured the entire media landscape last week, right? But I haven't spoken to one single Liberal.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Other side of this, we haven't talked about Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon.
Right.
And by the way, I've posted this on Twitter. Everyone needs to use the iPhone auto replacement function. So I just type PSPP and it writes out Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. Everyone should do that. Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon and the PQ.
Yeah.
How much of this is that he's doing a good job? Is it the CAQ being terrible? Or is Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon and the PQ convincing Quebecers?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. In every poll, in every Quebec poll, we should ask the sovereignty question. Not because we want to track it now. It's not a major issue, but it could become one in the future. It also helps explain the movement in the Quebec electorate. Yeah. And so in the Palace poll that I commissioned in November, it's shown the PQ had gained 11 points, while support for independence had not moved beyond the margin of error. So this is not new sovereigntist voters. Yeah. These are former CAQ voters that tend to lean sovereigntist, that lend their vote to the CAQ. Yes. And so this is because the CAQ has stumbled and stumbled and stumbled. And the only party that is shining right now, it is PSPP with the Parti Québécois. And so I don't want to take away their credit. He has credit to be handed it. Yeah. But the CAQ, all they have to do, it's much like the Trudeau Liberals, if competence is all that's needed right now. Because at the federal level, it's not that Canadians are in love with Pierre Poilievre right now. The numbers show lukewarm numbers at best for Pierre Poilievre, but they need competence, and they're not getting it from neither François Legault or Justin Trudeau right now.
We're going to get to federal stuff in just a moment here, but I just want to ask you to wrap up on the provincial side of things. Right. Now I'm losing my thought. I have dad brain, by the way. I'm losing I'm losing my train of thoughts. Oh yeah, here's my question. On provincial side of things, does it come down to it's the economy, stupid? how much is the economy and people's inability to pay for things like groceries affecting François Legault?
There's a lot of that. What many English Canadians blame on Justin Trudeau for spending and inflation, even though not all of it is within their control, let's be honest. The first government of Quebecers, as you know, is the one at the National Assembly. And so François Legault is getting hit on this. And of course, the housing file. I mean, housing has been an important file for years and years. And François Legault has not denied, but basically minimized the issue, and now it's come back and hit them in the face. And so we have clips, we have the receipts, and so they did not take that crisis seriously earlier, and now the opposition parties can hit them with it. So the economy getting better, of course the inflation going down, the interest rate going down would help all incumbents, including François Legault.
You know it's tough times for François Legault when he's dropping swear words all over the place. Huh? you know it's tough.
Well, in French, it's not a swear word. I used to say the F word in front of my parents. They would not budge. But if I say tabaroun, I'm not saying it.
It's more like question my integrity. Shit.
There you go.
Did you? Oh, it was beeped, right?
It was beeped. Yeah, English radio, we got to beep it. All right, we're continuing our conversation with Philippe J. Fournier. He's in studio, of course. He's the pollster creator of 338canada.com and he's the editor-in-chief of 338canada.com and a columnist at L'Actualité. Okay, before we move to federal, you just want to get one thing in because we did not talk about Quebec solidaire.
That's true.
And I think it is important to note that with the CAQ's decline, something does happen on the island of Montreal where it could be a vague orange on island in a sense.
It could be a small vaguelette. You could say that because in the poll there was the pollster split the sample, the Montreal regional sample, into island and suburbs, and the number on the island shows that the Québec solidaire is first on the island, not the Liberals.
Quebec solidaire first on the island.
However, it is a smallish sample, so we have to be careful. But of course, Quebec solidaire would be happy about this because they could record gains on the island of Montreal. I mean, the Vieux. And so if the Liberals lose 10 points in Montreal and Quebec solidaire picks some of that up, you could see some long-standing red seats change colors. I mean, Verdun hadn't changed colors in 90 years before Quebec solidaire won it last time. And so Quebec solidaire is not moving that much, 17% of this poll. It's a good poll for them, but it must be hard for Quebec solidaire to see the PQ go from 15 to 32.
And we know our electoral system. If you're going to be stuck 14, 15, 16, 17, well, good luck in the seat column.
That's right.
Right? It's hard. Okay, NC in provincial politics.
That's right.
Let's get to federal politics. And I have a text message from a listener. They've got a question I think a lot of people are asking.
Okay.
Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah.
How is he doing? How is he feeling right now?
I remember in 2011, Stephen Harper majority, with only 5 seats in Quebec, I believe it was. And some commentators says, well, there you go. The Conservatives have proven they can win a majority without Quebec. And other observers were like, well, hang on a minute. It was a historic election where both the Liberals and the Bloc Québécois had their worst elections ever. So it's more an outlier, right? The only way the Conservatives can win a majority without Quebec is if they win everywhere else.
Yes.
And they are winning everywhere else right now. So they're leading in the Maritimes, they're leading in Newfoundland, leading in Ontario by double digits. Well, we know they're leading in the West, but they also have like impressive leads in British Columbia. It would bleed over the Lower Mainland. And so right now, as you know, I update the federal projection every Sunday. My projection has 199 seats for the Conservatives, 75 for the Liberals. So basically half the current Liberal caucus would lose. And that's not including the new map. The new map comes in effect in April. I will switch my website to the new map in April, and it's going to lean even more conservative.
So here's the thing, because I'm so happy you brought that up, because there's an argument to be made that the Liberals should call an election before April 22nd, because once April 22nd rolls around, if they call an election after that date, it's the new map, which you just said is even better for the Conservatives.
Yeah, but there's a small leaning. Like there's 3 new seats in Alberta. Obviously, those new seats statistically would go to the Conservatives. The Ontario map leans a little bit more conservative. It is better for the Conservatives, but worth going into an election campaign trailing by 15 points when you do have time. You do have a sort of alliance with the NDP that gives you the luxury of time. That would be insane to me.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to happen. We're going to have the new map. It's just obviously if something terrible happens and the NDP pulls the support, I don't want to be caught with the wrong map on my website. So right now, it is the current map on the website. Yeah. I will switch it in April, but no, that's not going to be the case.
So Pierre Poilievre, the leader, has he, there's always been, is he likable? Will Canadians his favorability and his favorability numbers?
Yeah.
What are we seeing there?
We don't see Poilievre mania in the numbers, but the conservative base loves him, like absolutely loves him. And those numbers are very different from when Erin O'Toole was respected and appreciated, but Erin O'Toole never had numbers among conservatives like Poilievre is having right now.
Yeah.
So Poilievre is extremely popular among the conservative base. And this is something that I've written on the website a few times. Right now, the conservatives, they have 40% on average throughout the country. Leading in Ontario, as I said, Maritimes, the West. They could play defense for a year and a half. They don't they don't have to win over new voters. They can just keep the voters that they have now, and then will win a majority. Now, some say playing the trap in hockey is a risky business, but if you play the trap well, you remember the dead puck era, right?
This is let's get to the analogy, because they say the worst lead in hockey, the 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey. It's gone in 2 seconds. Do the Conservatives have a 2-goal lead right now that could be gone in a second?
Do you remember that game against the Rangers? The Habs were trading 0-5.
I was working for the Canadians. I was in the control room that night.
So you remember that game, huh?
Yeah.
What were the odds for the Canadians at 0-5?
0.1%?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Liberals right now. I'm not saying that the Conservatives have this in the bag, because that would be insane. Events can happen, as you know.
Yes.
But I'm trying to find a precedent. A year and a half from an election, a party trailing everywhere. Yeah. And the Liberals are doing okay in Quebec, but the Bloc Québécois is holding. And so in Francophone Quebec, it will be very hard for the Liberals to win as many seats as they would need to at least have a respectable loss.
You know who loves this show, by the way? You know who loves this show now?
Tell me.
Yves-François Blanchet. He's been on twice in studio. Big fan of this show.
Well, no kidding, because you're super nice. And and also, he has no pressure when he comes here.
Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure whatsoever.
Let's wrap up on this, because I'm coming up against the clock. But, to get an election, it's sooner than next year, right? The NDP would have to say, to heck with the deal, and they would have to see something in the numbers that would say, we, the NDP, will get our best result if we go to the polls early. Is there anything in the polling that suggests to you maybe the NDP, for their benefit, should pull the trigger?
No. That's the question. No. The NDP, half of their current caucus is in BC. Look at the numbers in British Columbia. I know maybe listeners here don't do that very much. Look at the numbers in British Columbia. They would probably lose seats, maybe gain some in Toronto, but they would find themselves with 25, 26 seats with a majority conservative government.
So an NDP caucus is not going to the polls early.
Nope.
Well, you heard it there from the man himself. Philippe J. Fournier, editor-in-chief of 338canada.com. The podcast is called The Numbers.
That's right. Thank you.